Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making a skirt. So in order to cut a skirt or fold a skirt rather, you calculate the highest part of your bottom, which is the hip measurement. Okay, so now we're going to be drawing a straight line just like so, which is going to be the starting point for our waist down to the bottom of the skirt. So now we're going to come down by 9 inches, which is the hip line. And then we're going to come down by 24 inches from the waistline, which is from number 1. That's going to serve as our knee line. Okay, guys. And now we're just going to impute the full length of the skirt. So we're just going to put in our measurements. Okay, the measurement for the waist is 7.5 inches plus 1.5 inches as our allowance. And then for the hip, guys, it's going to be 10 inches plus 1.5 allowance as well. So now we're just going to join those lines together like so. Now for the knee line, you're going to calculate the circumference of your knee line in order to get the measurements on the knee line. But first of all, I went up by 3 inches rather than it being 24. I went up by 3 inches to be 21. Now this is from 16 inches. As you can see, 39 minus 3 is going to give you 36. So 16 is going to serve as the starting point of the waist. So from here, because we're going to be attaching the top of the skirt, okay, it's a gown. So now we're just going to put in our initial measurements. Okay, now so for the bottom of the skirt, we're going to calculate our hip measurements. Alright, so whatever we have there, we're simply going to remove maybe 1 or 2 allowances because this skirt is a straight skirt. So I removed about 1.5 inches from the hip measurement now, okay? From the hip measurement, or 2 inches rather, I removed 2 inches, and then I also added 1.5 inches, guys. It's a little bit confusing how I'm marking it, but this is how, or this is the measurement I took rather. So now we're just going to connect those lines together like so. So now this is it for the skirt, and then for the top of the skirt, you can choose to put a dart. I went ahead to go in by 5 inches and go down by 5 inches as well to put in the darts. This is for the dart, and then you're going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides of that dart right there. But then you could also choose to deduct from the entire waist, okay, 1 inch. You can deduct 1 inch from the entire waist to serve as your dart, because you're still going to be sewing if you do the center dart like so. But then I didn't want any line to show on the bottom or on the top of the skirt rather, which is on the front. So I just decided to minus the darts from my cutting initially, just as I'm doing here. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm saying. Just going to add 1/2 inch on both sides of that dart right there, and then we're simply going to connect it like so. But now we already deducted 1 inch, so now we're just going to connect it back to the 5 inches mark for the dart, because that's where the dart will start from. You don't want to connect it to the hip because it's going to take a lot of allowance, okay? So we're just going to connect it to the dart because this is the dart area like so. And now we're going to cancel the other dart right there. Okay, so now this is it, guys. Now we're just going to cut out the front piece of our skirts. So we're just going to pin it in place because this is a shiny face fabric and sometimes it shifts a lot, so you're just going to pin it so all the lines, all the marks are intact and in place. Okay, so this is what we're going to use to cut out the back piece now. So now for our back piece, guys, we're going to add a little tail to our back piece, but then we're going to cut an entirely different tail to attach to the back piece. We're going to see that subsequently in the video, but yeah, so this is how we're going to arrange it for our fishtail. Okay, if you see that mark right there, the pencil or the chalk line, I had just indicated my knee line. Okay, so now we're going to create our zipper allowance for the back piece. So I'm just drawing a straight line so as to know how to calculate for that zipper allowance. Okay, we're simply following our front piece and drawing that straight line. Okay, guys. So now we're going to add our zipper allowance. Mine is usually 1 and 1.25 inches. 1.25 inches, 5 inches for sewing, and then 1 inch for the zip allowance itself. So now we're just going to mark the line all the way to the knee line, like so. Okay. All the way to the knee line. And now for our tail, I just went ahead to add about 3 inches. I did not want it to be really big like that because I was still going to add a separate tail. So this is what we have, and I'm just straightening that out in order to make an accurate curve for the fishtail look. So now you can choose to come down by however low you want to come down. I came down by 1 inch and then connected it down to the other side of the front piece right there. Now I'm going to connect this knee line down to the mini fishtail right there, like this. So now we're just going to go on ahead to cut it out. So guys, this is what we have after cutting the piece. And now since it's a lace fabric, we're saying a lace skirt, we usually use the lining, which is the shiny face, to cut out the patterns. Okay, so now for the entirely different fishtail, I'm just going to get a new pattern and draw a straight line like I did for the back piece. okay, just to know our starting point and how everything is going to align. Okay, so after doing that, we're also going to extend to however long or however wide we want our fishtail to be. I made use of 6 inches, as you can see, 7 inches to be precise, 7 inches rather. Okay guys, and then we're also going to come down again just like we did on the fabric. I'm going to come down by however low we want to come down. I came down by 2 inches, whereas I came down by 1 inch in the beginning. So now we're just going to connect that line to the top right there, but we're going to add our allowance first because I cut 2 pieces of this pattern paper, whereas I would advise if you are cutting, you should cut in one piece, which means you should cut on a center fold. Alright guys, so because it wasn't on the center fold, I added an allowance for joining, which is what I'm doing here. So now we're just going to curve that into place just to meet that line, and then we're going to check with the main fabric to see if everything is as straight as it should be, but just make sure to make that curve right there and then add your allowance for the joining. Okay guys, but then it is very important that we cut on fold, which is we cut on fold the longer part of the fishtail, okay, not the shorter part, the longer part of the fishtail, because that's going to be the center back. So now we're just using our fabric to see whether or not everything is aligning and the bottom is as curvy as it should be. Okay guys, and this seemed really fine. Just make a little adjustment if adjustments needs to be made. Guys, this is what we have now for our center back. We're just going to cut out the pattern paper and cut it on our lining piece alone, on our lace piece alone rather. So guys, this is our finished look. We have the front and also the lace already cut. We have the back piece, and then we have the fishtail, the separate fishtail itself. I went ahead to add more rather than 7. I added 1 inch extra, which is going to make it 8 width. Okay, so now we're just folding it. This is all for the cutting of the piece, and then for the bottom of the lace, make sure you cut an extra ornament just to join that out like this.